Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Phlightless Phoenix Podcast. Oh, I am now 2 weeks behind again. I did good catching up all in one night and then kind of got behind, but my last, sorry, I was adjusting the mic there. My last 4 episodes have had absolutely no views, so I don't think it really matters. But it didn't. I don't really care because I'm not really doing this for that, but it does make it a little easier to not worry. Or if I actually had anybody watching, I would worry more about being on time with uploads and all that. But yeah. Oh, but it has been a few days, and it's been a very good weekend. It was a very good weekend. I was able to relax and unwind a bit. And got a lot of work done in the yard. Pulled a lot of weeds. A lot of big old hogweed. Made me itch like crazy, but took a shower and now it's fine. Oh, I know I said I was going to stop just doing updates, but I always feel kind of semi-obligated to give an update just because there is a certain element of this I'm doing as a audio diary in a way, and so I do want to give some general kind of life updates. And ever since I saw a post, on, I've seen it on multiple different social media sites about how there's like some a lot of things in history have kind of been semi-lost just because nobody thought they were important enough to write down or record. And I know it's like a fun old post about how, oh, yeah, you never know what's useless information to one person is important to another. But it was talking about how, like, the only reason they know about some random things in history is somebody mentioned it once in a diary. And ever since then, every time I kind of record anything, video, audio, or written record, I just feel like a little bit more importance knowing that somebody might read it someday, or might watch it, or might listen to it, and might have a use for it beyond what I do. And it's something that's kind of, I feel like it's kind of self-absorbed to think about, like, oh, maybe in 100 years somebody will find my old podcasts where I just talk to myself for 15 minutes a day, and somebody might find that and use it to get a look at life in the early 2000s. But I don't really think it's some important work that I'm doing or something like that. I just think it's kind of fun to think about that you never know how something you're doing could change in the future without your knowing. And so, although it's kind of, in some ways, strange to kind of put all this out there. It is kind of fun in a way to think that even though this will probably just be something that I look back on fondly and never amounts to anything else, I like to think that maybe someday somebody will find a use for it. Hopefully that use is not making an AI version of my voice. But you never know. Because I know that I've seen some people work on AI, and so I know that they only need AI vocal repetition pattern or vocal pattern recognition stuff only needs something like 8 hours, I think it is. I think it needs a little less than that actually, but just needs enough word sounds and vocal enunciations to use to make up most words, along with your kind of pattern of speech and things like that. And so I know that I definitely have enough speech out on the internet now that it would not be hard, but could be something that's kind of fun to do is make a little AI that uses my voice. That would be funny. But yeah, I know I talk about this a ton, just talk about, what I'm doing. But I guess it's just mainly what's on my mind. I know I've been rambling on it for a few minutes now, but I talked long enough that I thought of something else to say. But that's it. My wife was talking about they have the Halloween decorations out in stores now. And she took my daughter to a store this morning. They were buying a couple of different things, and they wouldn't buy the Halloween decorations, and my daughter got scared by one of those that kind of jumps out when it senses somebody walking by. And we were talking about just how neither one of us really enjoy or appreciate uh, intentionally scary stuff. Not just like neither of us enjoy being scared, jump scare or otherwise. And it's just it's just something that we neither of us appreciate. And I really don't enjoy it when it's just constantly around. We were talking about how there are people we've seen who deliberately try to scare people as much as possible on Halloween, and how we find that rather distasteful. Because, like, it's one thing to go to a haunted house, but it's another to be trick or treating in your neighborhood and then have your kids run from a house screaming because they got scared by something. That's just not what you want. That's not why you go trick or treating. Like, the kids want to have fun. And if you're making something that is explicitly stated that it is for adults to get scared, then I don't really care. Go as far as you want. But if you're just letting anybody come up to your door, you don't need to put something that you know is going to frighten young children up very bad in front of your door. And people just don't like jump scares sometimes, and some people are always like, oh, that's such a funny joke. But I don't like when people try and jump scare me, because I feel like it's one of those things where it's a done to you, not with you, kind of. And I get that a surprise is a big part of any joke or present or treat or anything, but you can have an understanding that something is happening and still have it be a surprise. And I think that's something a lot of people miss, because you kind of need to hint at it when there's a surprise so that it doesn't come up at a very inopportune moment. And so, like with surprise parties, you don't want to tell them it's a surprise party, but you tell the person who it's a surprise to that you're going to do something. You kind of let them know that there is something going on, but you mislead about like what it's about or where it's at. And in the same way, I think with like Halloween stuff, you don't ruin the scare by saying that, oh, this is probably not for kids, or by saying like, yeah, no public access, or beware, just some form of letting people know. Because if you just put a bowl of candy out and then have like somebody hiding in the bushes to jump out and scare, then I guess you can use a bit of best judgment. But I never appreciate people who intentionally try to scare kids like that. But I know a lot of people really like Halloween as a holiday, and it's just not one I like. I'm not one of those people who goes way too far into saying, oh, it's satanic and all this and that. I think that's dumb too. It's not satanic and it's not harmful in any way, as long as it's done correctly. But it's not a holiday for gathering with family. It's a holiday for having a little get together with friends and eating a bunch of candy, pretty much. And although that can be fun, and I like, doing little trick or treat events. Like we always did a trunk or treat at our church growing up, and I always enjoyed that. But it does, as an adult, it's not like Christmas or Thanksgiving where we get to enjoy spending time with family and have a whole day. Or, I mean, if it's a good year, we usually take multiple days for those holidays, but just spending a lot of time with family, just enjoying each other's company, not really an hour or two long party that's mostly just spent eating candy and doing things like that. But I think that's just my old man showing. Anyway, that's all the time we have for now, so we'll continue this tomorrow. Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of this week's podcast. Oh, it's been a very long, very busy day today, because had some people coming out to install our backup internet, and so I had to do a lot of running back and forth, open up doors, make sure everything was going good. And then I had, on top of that, a pretty busy day of implementation work and just a little bit of everything today. So it was a lot, but it turned out pretty good. Nothing bad happened, and like nothing was too stressful overall, just very busy. And that's not bad, really. Some days when there's absolutely nothing going on, doesn't really happen anymore, but several months ago, there was some days when absolutely nothing was happening and I was pretty much done with all my work I had. Then that felt kind of rough. But it is a lot better to be able to get a bunch of stuff done. It does feel like I've accomplished something, regardless of whether I actually have or not. But anyway, I remember that yesterday I was in the middle of talking about something and then stopped, but I don't remember what I was talking about. But that doesn't matter because now I'm going to talk about pressure tanks. And it's kind of weird, just like pressurized tanks. I'm saying that literally because I see one out the window. But yeah, just we use a lot of pressurized liquids and gases these days. And I saw some stuff talking about water pressure for your home, and especially if you're living off the not off grid, like as in out in the wilderness. Although I guess it was for that too. But like if you have a well as opposed to a city water system, if you're running off of an individual well and stuff like that, the water pressure you get, it was talking about differences in like water towers versus pumps and the pros and cons. And they were talking about how you actually need like a really tall water tower in order to get high pressure for residential use from a water tower. So they can be good, but they're going to be low pressure if you're not uh, having a very tall one. Which I guess if you want a water tower, you could have a very tall one still, but I was saying it's better to just use a small high pressure pump instead because those are cheap, don't use that much electricity, and you don't need a giant construct of a water tower in your backyard. But I was thinking that did kind of get me thinking about. I know my in-laws have a communal. Well, yeah, like them and their neighbors share a pump, like a well, and so they're on a system kind of like that. But they also have a windmill that actually, or a oh yeah, windmill because it uses the wind and pumps water from their well, but it's a separate system from the well that provides their house water. But it actually does use wind power for the well water on that one. That one is directly for their livestock, though, which they don't have any currently, but they've had some in the past, and they have that installed. But my sister is has made plans to move out into the countryside and start her own off the grid homestead. And my wife and I have talked about that, and I know my little sister and her husband have talked about that. All of us are kind of thinking about it to some extent, except my other sister, my middle sister. She is staying in Dallas and definitely does not want to leave. So it's kind of funny that she's in the a big old city and really trying to get everything together there. And we, and all the rest of her siblings are trying to get off grid as much as we can. But I feel like that's kind of the two ends of the spectrum to some extent, because everybody I know seems to either be talking about moving out of town or talking about moving into town. Most people end up somewhere in the middle, but I feel like a lot of people around here talk about their dream is to move out into the country on their own, and the other half seem to talk about it's their dream to move to a real city, a big city, which I definitely fall way more on the off the grid kind of side, because even though we live in town right now and for the foreseeable future that's where we're going to be, it's still definitely something I want to do eventually, to move off grid entirely and have separate power and water and all that. I'd like to be able to fix it all myself, but I know that I'm not that skilled, so we'll probably need connected to the power grid at least, because you don't want to have a bad storm knock out some of your solar panels and then not be able to use any electric, uh, especially when you don't have gas backups, which that's one thing. I like wood burning stoves, and I'm not a fan of like gas heaters as much, but I do see where a lot of people still want them, just for that kind of reassurance that even if the electricity goes out, your gas will still be running. And so it's good to have that going still. But I know in our place we have a gas heater and then water heater, but we don't have a gas stove. But we do have a gas option in our fireplace, although we don't have a key to turn it on, which is something I really thought should have been included in the rental, is, the hardware to use the gas uh, fireplace. And also, they didn't include a screen for it. Like, we're going to have to buy and install one ourselves, which is annoying, but yeah. I've been trying to figure out, like, what I'm probably going to have to end up doing is uh, just finding one that kind of sits in front of the fireplace, since I don't particularly want to go drilling holes into a stone brick fireplace. But I don't want to start a fire without having a good screen on it, especially with a kid and a dog. You don't want them running straight into it. And you definitely don't want any toys being thrown in there. That's why I'm hesitant to go with a kind of stand in front option, because I want it to cover the whole thing, which we might need to just go to a store in town and look at them, but they're expensive and really don't want to spend a lot of money on something like that, seeing as we aren't going to live here forever. It's only temporary for the next couple or years or so. But you gotta make do with what you got, so I think we'll figure it out. But that's all the time we have for today, so I'll continue this tomorrow. Hello, and welcome to part 3 of this week's podcast. Boy, it has been a very fast week already. Oh, today is a great weather day. Like, it's very lightly breezy and semi-cloudy. It rained this morning, so it's nice and cool. Weather's just like super nice. I wasn't expecting that because it's been really hot, like in the 90s, which for this time of year is pretty warm around here, but I guess that's pretty warm any time of year for anywhere. But uh, for us, pretty hot is usually in the hundreds, but it's September, so it's already supposed to be getting a little cooler, which it had been in the 70s for like a good week and a half or so, but now it's getting got a little warmer. Now it should be getting a little cooler again. But oh, we had to get a new leash for our dog because we had a retractable leash that we were using and it broke just in the middle of our walk. It just stopped retracting and then just unspooled. And so just like, well, and we're running to get groceries anyway, so we got a new one, but it's a just a normal leash. But my wife likes the retractable ones because they don't get like caught as much, and the dog can just kind of wander a little further, so she doesn't drag us around as much because the dog likes to go all over the road sniffing everything. But or well, not all over the road, all over everybody's yard. Oh, but we'd switched that and then had to start taking her out a little later the past few days because we switched it to an earlier time since it's getting dark earlier, but then we had to switch it later. And I was trying to take the dog out on my own so I could just run her around or walk real quick because I go a lot faster than my wife does, and because my daughter goes with us and she loves to go around in her stroller, but it's been hot and then it's getting late and my wife's getting to that stage of the pregnancy where she needs to start resting a little more and not go on a 30-minute walk with a stroller or with a dog, which I can take both of them, but she doesn't like me to. And I think she doesn't like that she's not been having enough energy to push the stroller or walk the dog. So she's kind of just trying to keep up and not get too tired with everything, which she's been doing good about that, but it's just hard on her being pregnant and having all that change happening. But she's starting to feel the little baby moving around in there, so that's fun. I can't feel it yet when the baby kicks, but oh, there's a bad traffic jam. Ooh, that's really bad. Luckily, I'm turning off here, so let's calm down for this road. But yeah, that's like two miles backed up that I can see from here. Ooh, that's bad. All right, that's probably more like 1 mile. It's kind of hard to tell. Anyways, what I was saying is, yeah, it's been getting a lot harder for her just getting around, dealing with the changes that come with being pregnant, of course. Oh, but her favorite part about, well, one of her favorite things, probably her favorite thing with I, I think I've asked her about it, but I don't want to say it was definitely her favorite in case I'm misremembering. But I know it was one of her favorite things about being pregnant was feeling our daughter moving around inside her and just having that kind of constant feeling of her there. And now she's getting to go through that again. And there's a lot of very difficult things about being pregnant, and it's definitely a lot, but there's a lot of things like that that she just is so happy for feeling it again, feeling her moving around like that. Oh, well, there's another traffic jam on a different road that I just passed by. I guess a lot of people are getting in wrecks today because there was a traffic jam when I was going to work this morning. There was a little minor wreck, it looked like, and then actually last night I was going to the store, and there was another one last night. So usually I only see like one or less a week, and I've seen like four in the. Well, I'm assuming. I guess I've seen three, but I assume there was a fourth one in that long traffic jam because that doesn't really happen as much without. Around here, those don't happen that much unless there's a wreck. But I wonder why so many. But that does kind of remind me I need to top up the air pressure in my tires as it's kind of starting to get a little colder. They've dropped the air pressure a little bit. And I need to check oil levels and all. It's kind of hard to remember to do that very regularly. I kind of am a little sporadic and when I check all that and get that ready, but I'm due for an oil change pretty soon. I need to go get that done probably. And then I need to re-air the tires and switch out the air filter as well because it's been a little while for that. But those are all things I might have to look at getting done tonight. I need to wash my truck off, it's gotten real dusty and starting to fog up the windshield a little bit. And then my wife's car's gotten pretty dirty. Need to take it, but that one probably need to take it and get it washed because there's like sensors and the camera, so need to make sure all those get cleaned too, rather than just spraying it down with water. Oh, but that's just about all the time we have for this part of this week's episode. So I will continue this again tomorrow. I think I'm doing better about getting the whole week in. And as I've gotten less stressed, it's been a little easier. So I think soon I'll be back to uploading them normally too. I need to do that tonight, but that's not as pressing for now. Anyway, see y'all next time. Well, not see y'all next time, because for anyone listening, this will just be like 5 seconds here, but that's all for today. Hello, and welcome back to part 4. Part 4 of this week's episode. Today was a pretty decent day, but that last hour, man, that felt a little bit long. But got a lot done, so it was a pretty good day, all things considered. We've been trying to plan this weekend. We're gonna go visit some family friends for a birthday party on Saturday. But then my wife's parents are coming into town tomorrow, and so tomorrow they'll be in town, and then they'll stay the night with us, and then we'll all get up and leave. They're gonna stay in town, and we're gonna head out of town, but then we're gonna come back into town, and we have a funeral that we may be going to back in town. Luckily, the birthday party is only like an hour away, so we'll leave for that in the morning and then come back in the afternoon, and then we'll be back probably just about in time for the funeral. It's my great aunt, my great aunt, and I did not really know her very well, so I'm not too involved in the funeral. I'm not like one of the ones that has been planning it or anything, but that'll be at our church, and it's all our family, so I'd like to go and support the family. Even though I didn't really know her that well, it is still family there, and so we want to go support them, but it's also my daughter's nap time right then, and so we're trying to figure out kind of where we need to be with all of this, because then after that we're gonna go back and spend time with my wife's family, because my nephew got a pretty bad injury that he's kind of recovering from, and we're going to spend some time with them. And then her parents are staying the night with us again if it goes how we're planning, but they might want to spend the night with our nephew, so we'll just see where they end up. But they're also yet another thing they're doing is they're bringing a old dresser that they have that they're not using, because my wife's using a dresser she's had for forever, and I'm using a dresser I've had for forever, and so both of us just about have enough room for our clothes. And I don't even have that many clothes. I have like I have 8 pairs of jeans, and then maybe 2 dozen shirts, and then 2 dozen pairs of underwear and socks and all that. So, and my dresser's completely full with all that because it's a bit of a smaller one made for me when I was not even a teenager yet. But so they're going to be moving that into. I'll be helping my father-in-law move that into our room probably. Oh, and then I think there was one more thing. I can't remember what it is right now. It's just going to be a very busy weekend, but we're going to get to see a whole lot of family and spend some time with them, so it'll be good. But but I was thinking today. I know I talked about it very extensively earlier on recording this podcast, but I was thinking about the Star Wars role-playing game campaign I was thinking about doing, because I am still wanting to do that at some point. It's just been so hard to find any time in my schedule, and I'd have to coordinate it as the GM, and it's kind of something that I am somewhat socially awkward, I guess you could say, and I really don't like reaching out to people to organize things. And so I have a hard time just kind of asking people to go out of their way to do things, especially if it's something more for me. And so I'm going to have a hard time finding a group of players who would be up for it. And I've put a lot of work into it already, just kind of mainly just broad ideas. But I really want to make it work when I do it. But I'm just not confident in my ability to GM either. So I've started having like doubts about it a little bit, but I still want to do it. But I've just been kind of thinking about that, and then excuse me, the Star Wars Legion. That's the miniatures game I would say I play, but I haven't played in well over a year now. So it's the miniatures game that I make and paint or that I paint miniatures for. Uh, and it's they released a campaign mode for the game where you can kind of have these armies in the campaign and have more long-term battles, and each battle kind of levels up your units and you can do different things with that. So it's pretty fun in that respect. I think it looks really fun. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but I was thinking that's a much lower barrier to entry. And my brother-in-law has played a few games of Legion with me before, and so I was thinking I'm going to see if he wants to do a narrative focused campaign maybe, and we could focus that on because I made this world in Star Wars that I can use for the tabletop RPG. And I was thinking I could kind of set up this campaign for Legion in that world. And if I could get him and maybe somebody else who would be up for playing in the eventual TTRPG campaign, if they wanted to do a narrative Legion campaign, that could be a good small scale way of stepping into that kind of role playing game world, with it more being just a tabletop strategy game at first, so I can kind of try my hand at providing the narrative while at the same time relying on a much more structured rule set that means I don't have to do as much of the kind of structuring of the games. And that might be a cool little like 2-player 1 GM way of starting it on a small scale campaign, and then the eventually leading into a more widespread kind of fully role-playing game campaign. But I kind of want to try out the system first, so I might just see if my brother-in-law wants to play just a generic kind of game in that system. And then if that's something that's fun and nice to do, then we can from there move on to doing the narrative campaign. And then if that works as well, then I might feel comfortable enough to do the TTRPG campaign as a GM. So that's just kind of an idea I had for how it might go, but who knows. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. So I will continue this tomorrow. Hello and welcome to part 5, the last part here of this week's podcast. And boy, was it a crazy day. I had not even kidding, 20 different things that should have taken me half an hour. And I got it all done, plus a little extra, which in 8 hours is not bad, considering that probably should have taken 10 hours of work to do all that. But got it all done, and it is Friday, so I am done with work. Oh, we're gonna have a busy day tomorrow, but we're gonna rest good on Sunday and relax and enjoy the weekend. And get to see a bunch of family, so that'll be nice. Hopefully, my daughter doesn't get too grouchy with all the traveling and everything tomorrow, because it'd be nice if we could let her just have a easy day, but I know it's going to be a little bit busier than she's used to, and she probably won't get a full 2 hour nap in, so might be a little cranky, but she'll be okay. Just go to bed a little earlier, but I think after tomorrow we'll all be ready for it. But I was asking my wife what she thought about my plan to do a kind of narrative Legion campaign yesterday, and she gave me good advice, which was just do it and don't worry so much about it. And I think that I have been a bit more worried than is probably necessary about different uh, things to do with that, and just I get kind of worried about and caught up in the social anxiety of it. And something I just need to admit to myself that I have that social anxiety and need to just push past it and get on with it. But oh, but yeah, my brother-in-law said he was up for trying out the campaign, so I think I'm gonna see if he wants to come over this weekend and maybe print out some copies of the rules for that and plan build our armies and plan for a campaign. I think that'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be something I can do easily at home and won't take too much time. So, whew, I really think I need to just start not getting so caught up in being busy that I forget to do more enjoyable hobbies, because I have a lot of hobbies and I like all of them, but I've been playing a lot of video games the past few weeks, and it's fun, but it definitely isn't as fulfilling as painting my miniatures or doing some work on those. I think that it feels a lot more fulfilling and just leaves me a lot happier after I'm done with it. But the problem is that I don't like doing that in a separate room, but my daughter's only 2. I don't really want to bring a bunch of non-child friendly paints that will completely stain things or be hazardous to ingest if she accidentally ingests some. I don't want to just leave those in the room with her. So I need some way of like kind of, and I don't like leaving them out in the kitchen. I did that like a month ago when I was working on the big model that I had. And I didn't like leaving all that out for weeks while I was working on it, because the way I paint models takes a very long time. I know that is completely on me, and it's not necessary at all, because people have good looking models with not as much work, but I really enjoy putting the work into them, so I'm gonna keep up with that for sure. But it is definitely something I want to keep working on, and I need to figure out like some little kind of tray situation I can do where I can kind of have like at least 4 or 5 paints out on a tray with like, I'd like to have little like cup holders for my paint pots, and then have a little place to put my minis and some paper towels, and just a little like laptop tray that I can paint some miniatures on. Maybe a little box off to the side to have the unpainted, and then a box on the other side for the finished. I don't know. But anyway, that's something I eventually want to start doing. Just get it a little easier to take in and out, and not make it a hobby that doesn't take me away from my family when I do it. Because, I know that, like, my wife and I both growing up, both our dads tended to come home from work and then just kind of sit on their own for a while, just like doing their own thing, or uh, just kind of not talking much. And I definitely get that, because when I get home from work, it's hard, and I get very tired and want to just kind of sit at home and sit back and relax and watch something. And so, but it'd be nice to just kind of go in the other room, sit back and paint, or play a few rounds of one of my video games on the TV. But I think it's it makes me a lot happier long term to slow down and sit and play with my daughter, and I still can just watch something on my phone instead of on the TV, and it doesn't really take me away from it. So that's nice. But and so I've been kind of leaning more into the video games, because that's something I can do while I'm still sitting on the couch and don't have to worry about spilling anything or making a mess. But eventually it just kind of, it's nice to do a lot with all that, but at the same time, like, it's nice to get to relax and play some video games, but at the same time it just kind of feels a little more like wasting time rather than doing something with my time. And so and I want to do more with like building terrain for miniature war games. That's something I really want to work on, because Like, I have a lot of the miniatures now, but I don't really have nice maps and nice, like, obstacles and terrain. And so I worked on, and I've actually built some little point of interest or objective tokens for Legion, because I bought these 2-inch washers for some terrain I was making, actually, because I have magnets on the bottom of my miniatures, and so I used metal under the terrain, like a large sheet of steel, to so that they would magnetize to the terrain and stick on it even when I was moving them and doing things like that. And it works really well, but then I also wanted to make it kind of 3D, not just a flat plate. So I bought a bunch of large steel washers and kind of glued those onto the uneven terrain and used them to kind of support the miniatures under the uneven terrain. And so with that, it kind of made it to where I could, move my minis around a little easier. And so I have those, and the point of interest objectives in Legion are 2 inches now with the updated rules. So it worked out perfect since I had extras. And I used some like old tokens that aren't part of the game anymore, or they were models that are made as like token models, essentially, because it was some moisture evaporators and some I don't remember what, like, comms units and like little bombs and crates and stuff. Anyway, it looks real cool, but I need to spray those and paint them up. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week's podcast. So thank y'all for listening. Leave a comment if you have a subject in mind, because I am running out of ideas for sure. And I'll talk to y'all later.